I booked 2 roles in the same film. In the newly released Red 1, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Chris Evans, and J.K. Simmons as a ridiculously buff Santa Claus, I actually played 2 different roles in the film. Well, you'll only recognize me in one of them, but let's talk about the whole journey. Everyone, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. And I got a new phone, and none of my microphones plug into this new iPhone, so if the audio sounds weird, sorry. First, let me say that in this industry, it can be tough to celebrate your wins. In fact, in today's issue of our free newsletter, The Scuttlebutt, I put a Drake quote at the bottom. People like you more when you're working towards something, not when you have it. So with that in mind, I realized that talking about one of my own bookings can feel like an ego stroke. So I will proceed with caution. Okay, I didn't even know this was a thing, booking 2 roles in the same film, until it happened. It was September of 2022, so over 2 years ago, and I got an audition for a role in a film called Mia, or MEA, which was the working title for Red 1. Now, the role breakdown was for a character named Troll Number 2, and the sides looked very simple, obvious, and they look like more like a computer hacker. So I was already struck with this conundrum of, well, what do they mean by troll? The actual character breakdown said no character breakdown. It wasn't blank. It said no character breakdown. And because this was a big secret film, there was also no synopsis for the movie itself. So I was left wondering until a couple days or maybe a couple hours later, I can't remember, there was a clarifying email from production, from casting, that said the role has changed names to Hacker. Oh, okay. Thank goodness. Now I have clarity that troll was a metaphor and that it's really just an internet troll, so to speak. That said, I submitted 2 takes for the role of Hacker/Troll 2. The first was a very straightforward approach that was just me leaning into this computer hacker personality. But the second take, as you can see here, is pretty ridiculous, visually speaking. I'm not going to play the audio for NDA purposes and also not to spoil anything about the movie. But you can see that I took a risk maybe on that second take, but I wanted to include something that was more fun, that nodded to the fact that maybe this was a literal troll and I just wasn't given enough information. And also, at this point, I had already been auditioning for this casting office for over a decade. So I felt comfortable submitting a fun take like this because at worst, I thought, well, casting will just delete my take before showing the other one to production. So in short, submitting that fun take felt like a low-risk situation. And it turns out the character was both a computer hacker and a literal troll. And I booked it. Maybe because I submitted that fun take. I don't know. I didn't ask the director. It's very rare that someone on the production side of things will tell you which take was the reason they booked you. So I just showed up on set knowing that whatever I did, they responded to. And my shoot day was the first day of principal photography. Actually, it was day 0. It was some sort of pre-shoot or something. I can't remember what they called it. And because I was going to be playing an actual troll, it was a day of special effects. The set was a green screen. The floor was green. We had real furniture like an office chair because we were computer hackers. So there was a computer on my desk. And what I was wearing was a costume that had an oversized collar to allow for the fact that later they would put in a CGI troll head. And they had tracking dots on my face so that they could still honor the facial expressions I was making and let the character's lips move with my lips. They also showed us a previs or a pre-visualization of what our trolls were going to look like. Yes, I actually had a co-star who was troll number 1 in the scene. That previs was so helpful because by seeing what both of us were going to look like, and in the scene I lean over the other troll's shoulder, it gave me ideas about how I was going to physically move into the scene, what my walk was going to be like, what the cadence of my voice was going to be like, and even the fact that the other troll had long floppy ears. So I thought it would be fun at one point to react to his ear hitting me in the face. Because here's the thing, I didn't have a conference with the director or anyone else on the team ahead of time as to what they were looking for from this special effects character. We just showed up on the day with the expectation from the director that we had ideas that we were going to contribute to this process. And in short, me and my fellow troll had fun. My character was a perpetual snacker, so I ate a lot of fire cheese balls. It was some random generic brand of spicy cheese balls. I ate a lot of them in a very short amount of time. And I could tell that the stuff I was giving to the character, that I was giving to the director, Jake Kasdan, was inspiring him to come up with his own ideas. And it very quickly became this collaboration of yes-anding each other and finding a lot of fun with these characters. It was a quick shoot overall, I think less than a half day. But it was satisfying because I knew I had collaborated with Jake, the director, my co-star, the other troll, and the whole crew in a way that gave them good footage and started this production off on the right foot. After all, remember, this was the first day of shooting. So I wrapped, and that was that. Until, ding, I get an email about 6 weeks later that casting wants to pin me and keep me in the loop for a potential second role. And they said that they realize I have already done this movie, but that because I was not going to be recognizable once they did all the special effects, the director wanted to work with me again. That's flattering, of course. Now, the role was going to be for air traffic controller, and long story short, that ended up going to someone else, but then in January of 2023, so now 3 months after my initial shoot, I get another email that they want to pin me for the role of Aaron Abel, which is what I ended up booking and shooting at the end of January of 2023. Now, that day was a lot of fun too, because the role of Aaron Abel gave me the ability to play an absolute jerk. And it's always fun to play the villain. Plus, I got to spend part of that day with a dear friend of mine, Adam Boyer, who also is in the movie. Now, this scene was more of a straightforward scene with a practical set. I was in a parking lot, and then I get into my car. But there were some special effects involved in the scene that I won't give away. You'll have to see the movie to see how that scene ends. And once again, it was a short day on set, and I wrapped. Now, for neither scene, for neither of these days on set, did I even catch a glimpse, let alone work with Chris Evans, Dwayne Johnson, J.K. Simmons, Lucy Liu, or any of the other lead cast members. But the benefit of not being on set with the top cast members is that you get a lot more attention. That is a huge plus, especially when you're on a $250 million budget set. Trust me, I've been on other big budget movie sets working with the leads in the scene, and it's very common to be ignored or even fully disrespected by the director. Maybe not so much their fault when they're being pulled in so many directions and being stressed out by such a huge budget, such a huge star, etc. Oh, and a footnote to the story, if you've been following along with the dates, is that it was actually supposed to come out Christmas of 2023. But due to factors that, sometimes we aren't privy to, they pushed it a year, and it is now, of course, coming out in theaters now in 2024. And it's hard to wait that long to see the fruits of your labor. I mean, I thought I had passed those days of working on indie films where you never see your footage because they never even finish the film. But it turns out it can happen in Hollywood at the highest budget level. Add to that the fear that during that protracted amount of time, they might decide to cut one or both of my characters. Luckily, I had a friend on the inside who let me know that I had made it, both of my characters, into the early cuts of the film. So I felt pretty confident that both the troll and Aaron would make it into the final cut. Now, selfishly, I encourage you to go see the movie. It's a fun action, holiday, adventure comedy. But before I fully wrap this up, I do want to make an attempt to pull some lessons from this experience. First, you never know. This industry has so many ups and downs. Your career is going to have peaks and valleys, surprises and letdowns, and it never ends. No matter what level of this industry you get to, there are always surprises around the corner. Next lesson is that it's always a collaboration. Be ready to bring your ideas to the table. That's why presumably you've been cast. They are letting you shepherd this character so that they don't have to worry so much about all of the nuances of the character's story. They want you to have ideas, to bring your experience to the table. And in rare cases like this, it pays off because you start to jibe with the director and you build that character together. Another lesson that is something we've repeated on this channel is the Steve Martin quote, "Be so good, they can't ignore you." I didn't network my way into that second role. I didn't know someone that allowed me to get back on set as Aaron Abel. I just did my job as troll number 2 the best I could. And once again, my sensibilities aligned with Jake's sensibilities, the director, such that, hey, I want to work with that guy again. And he pulls me back into another role without even an audition. There's also a subtle lesson here of respecting the privacy of a project. On a big movie like this, there are NDAs. In every movie, there is a contract that you're going to sign that has clauses talking about how you can and cannot talk about the project, specifically before it's released, but even sometimes after its release. So here I am being very careful not to share more information than you can find on IMDb or in a public review online somewhere. So just be very careful when you decide to talk about a project, how you share that information and when you share that information publicly. And lastly, you got to find ways to celebrate your wins. I don't recommend blasting it out on social media like I'm kind of doing with this video, unless maybe it's a milestone booking or it's special in some way. Instead, as part of your team, you need to have people that are your cheerleaders that will unconditionally love you, support you, encourage you, and celebrate those wins without that tinge of competition or hate liking your wins. Trust me, don't rely on social media likes and comments to fulfill that need. Social media is a fickle lover. Okay, did you see the movie? If not, I encourage you once again to go check it out in theaters or, depending on when you're watching this, to find it on streaming somewhere. And leave a comment below if you saw the movie or if you think that I am just stroking my ego and that I should shut up and go back to talking about auditions and self-tapes. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.